Alright, hello fun and welcome back to my Fallout 4 Mod Spotlight series, where today we are having a look at the Settlement Innkeeper mod, which is being made by user V-Neck Jumper. And what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is the ability for you to actually create a real functioning inn inside your settlements. And I love this idea, not only from just a role play perspective for yourself, but also it can actually generate passive income for your settlement by providing housing, temporary housing, for those passing through your settlement, such as, caravanners, provisioners, etc. And that's pretty darn cool. Another way of making some cash for your character and settlement. Very nice indeed. So let's take a look at what all we are getting here with the Settlement Innkeeper mod and talk about the not one, not two, but 3 different tiers of inns that you can actually create. And I quite like this. So first we're going to talk about the basics. The most basic is the tier 1 inn here, where you have the innkeeper stand or stall rather, the beds for the tier 1 inn, and also a cooking pot for the tier 1 inn. And you can't use the cooking pot here, you'll notice we can't even interact with it, until we actually rent a bed for the day. Once that's happened, we can actually use the cooking pot. And that carries on to the tier 3, where you can also have inside your inns basically everything from chemistry stations, armor, to, weapon workbenches, etc., which is pretty darn cool. Amenities that can only be used if you've actually rented a room. Now, once you go from the tier 1, we move up to the tier 2, slightly nicer stall here. Same old cookpot, but a better bed for the tier 2 innkeeper here, which is quite nice, and as you can see, it's owned until you rent it. And then finally the tier 3, where you have the nicest front desk, as you can see here. By far the nicest bed, and like I mentioned, the far better amenities for you to use as well, which I love the idea that these are locked until you actually do rent a room. And it's quite easy to build these, as you just need to go into the build mode in any of your settlements. Go on over to stores, and you'll find all of them in the trader category. And I actually really do love that these are all individual pieces. You've got the individual innkeeper bed tier 1, the tier 2, tier 3 down here a little ways. I like that they're individual pieces because rather than having a pre-built inn, which is what I actually thought this might be when I first saw it on the Nexus, you actually can create your inn however you like. Create as many rooms with as many beds, as many amenities, etc. as you deem necessary for your inn, which I really do love. And you can just continue adding on to the inn by adding, say, another tier 3 bed, bam, or, well, a third tier 1 bed rather, there we go. And this innkeeper here now knows they've got a 3rd bed they can sell, and that's wonderful. It's a very, very cool system that doesn't take a lot of work on your part. You've just got to build the inn, and the mod takes care of the rest. Now, as for the actual creation of these things, they're pretty cheap to actually create. You're going to need, mainly things like cloth, steel, wood, etc. But also, each of these, you'll see at the bottom there for the requirements, is going to need caps, because you are an inn. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, quite easy to build all of these, so you'll be able to pretty quickly make yourself a decent little inn, which is nice. And thankfully, doesn't need local leader. I don't know why, but I do like that, considering I think it's a really cool idea to be able to build just a simple tier 1 inn from the start and get, a little inn empire going. I think that's fun. And you'll also notice up at the description there at the top, our next thing we're going to talk about is that these produce income based on total population. Not just that though, but the rental prices for the beds are dynamic and are determined by the base rental rate, then the tier level of inn, then the number of non-settler visitors, and the amount of surplus beds available in the settlement, and that will determine the price. So the price is constantly changing, which is really cool. And whenever that price is paid, whether by yourself to rent a room or by a non-resident visitor like a caravan coming through, half of that money will stay with the innkeeper to take care of their costs. The other half will go into your workshop, which is how you make that passive income, which again is, I just think, a great idea, and I really, really love it. And how you actually do rent a room, of course, is quite simple. We once assigned a settler to one of the desks. You just simply go up to them and interact. Sometimes it does take an attempt or two, I will admit, which is a little bit annoying. It sometimes seems to glitch out a bit. There we go. It took me 3 tries of interacting with them. And it brings up this innkeeper UI. They narrow their eyes as we approach. Yeah, what do you want, Drifter? And, well, our options here are, I'll take a bed. That will rent you a bed for 24 hours. You can also check what they're selling, because these are innkeepers that also are vendors. And the fun thing is with these is that they will vend their trade goods here during regular trading hours like any other vendor in the game. But all day long, they will still sell you a bed. So only during the day will they sell you goods, but all day long, 24/7, they will still rent you a bed, which is good. Now you have the usual the option here of trading gear with your settlers. You can ask them what a bed is going to cost, which for us is quite cheap because, well, there's no one here. No visitors in town. They've got 3 beds available, so a very cheap market rate at the moment.
A dangerous look about you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I forgot it cancels you out of the UI after you do that. Okay, back in. Hopefully in a moment. Like I said, the interface is the wonkiest part of this mod. It sometimes takes a bit for it to recognize that you're selecting it. So after how much the beds cost, there's also how are things, which can actually give you some interesting information about the settlement. You can see who the settlement owner is, number of settlers, their water, food production, defense level, current happiness, which of course you would know yourself for if you are the creator of the settlement. But one of the things that this mod is kind of aiming itself towards is a future soon-to-come update for the Faction Workshop Manager, where you can actually have settlements owned by different factions. And by also using this mod maker's other mod called Not My Settlement, you can actually go to a settlement owned by a different faction and you would not be able to use any of the amenities inside that settlement. You can't use their beds, can't use containers, can't use their workshops, etc. And so, if there's an inn there though, well, you can check up on how the settlement is doing and get yourself a room for the night, which is pretty cool. So even though for me right now, and for most people right now, this is more or less a just roleplay mechanic, but once these updates come through for these other mods, you know, there's actually going to be reason for having these inns, because you might not be able to stop at a settlement if you don't own it, which is kind of cool. But even without those mods, this is a fun mod to have on its own. I love the idea of being able to build and customize your own inn, updating it as you make more and more money over the days and weeks and years, and to create it into a tier 3 proper inn is just cool. Well, I should actually show off the, the amenities mechanic there, so let's actually go ahead and rent a room since there's only 10 caps. Pretty cheap indeed. And room rented. Alright, keys on the nail, don't bleed on it. There is actually no key. We just have, 10 cost, 24 hours. And I'm wondering, yep, there we go. The first bed there. And you can see the other 2 are still owned by the inn. So we have this available. And we now can use the cooking station. There we go. I like that. It's a simple thing, but I love that it's locked out until you actually do the thing, which is pretty darn cool. And overall, just a fun little mod for adding in a little bit of immersion and roleplay into the game. Where in the world did my settlement person go? Oh, hi. Why'd they go over there? That's weird. I don't know. But yeah, I really do like this mod. At first when I saw it, I wasn't sure if I would or not. But the idea of making an inn that can generate income for you, because like I said, other visitors to your settlement will use it if you have a caravan coming through or provisioners. And if you are actually using sim settlements too, the other visitors that come into your settlements that you can recruit will also rent rooms. So it's a great way to earn passive income and just a neat feature to immerse yourself in the world. You can become the post-apocalyptic hotel tycoon you've always wanted to be. But yeah, that's really all there is to talk about with this mod. It's a fun thing that I definitely would recommend you give a try and build yourself some cool inns in the wasteland. So hopefully you have enjoyed this one today. If you do want to check out the mod, definitely check out the link in the video as usual down in the description. But hopefully you have enjoyed this one and come back for whatever mod we do look at next. But until that time, thank you for watching, and as always, well, have a good one. Now I'm going to go to sleep on my lovely, well, crummy mattress that I rented. Later, folks.